following program is an exclusive Disruption Networks production.
So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broking everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up DisruptionNetwork.net and check out our events calendar brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at DisruptionNetwork.net.
Join us Saturday, February 8th through the Disruption Network 3-year anniversary party at the Jewish Community Center, 2310 Oneida Street in Utica, New York. Musical acts include Annie in the Water, acoustic performance by Haley Jane, Trampoline Jetstream, and Live Noah. Haley in the Water will cap off the night covering Fleetwood Mac's hit album, Rumors. Party kicks off at 6 p.m. There will be beer, wine, food from Doughboys Barbecue, and Holy Pozzoli. Saturday, February 8th. For tickets, visit our website, DisruptionNetwork.net.
We're grinding it up on a Tuesday here. Home of the Disruption Network Studios. It's EC Radio. What's happening, everybody? Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? Brian, I never know what day it is.
It ends in Y.
It ends in Y, that's for damn sure. You can follow along all Disruption Network social media platforms, and it's wrapped up into a podcast that you can find at our home base, DisruptionNetwork.net. It's me, Z. Howdy. Big ups to our friends over at Utica Coffee. Wake the hell up. I did something special today. I mixed it up a little bit. And Brian, he was my taste tester today. Brian Intrary in the house with me from Ninja Farms. Brian, good to see you. What I did today is I combined cannoli coffee with the gingerbread biscotti. It was kind of like what was left over.
It's called Holy Piscotti.
Holy Piscotti. I like it. It's really good, actually. Great combination. If you get a chance, mix it up. Gingerbread biscotti and the cannoli coffee from our good friends over at Utica Coffee. Also, much love to our friends over at EJA Moving Services, the professional movers. When you're ready to move and relocate, hit up Eddie and the crew, ejamoving.com for more information. And our good friends over at Utica Hemp. I got to say something, man. They got that chaga tea over there at Utica Hemp, and I've been drinking it. I've been a little under the weather the last couple of weeks, and that stuff helps me. It helps you sweat it out a little bit.
Definitely.
Chaga tea's where it's at.
Yeah, they've been using that for thousands of years in places that...
And you find it on like birch trees, right?
Old bark, so oak.
Oak?
Yeah. There's some on birch, too.
Birch?
Yep.
Right on. Well, it's excellent stuff, and it helps me sweat out the sickness that I had in the throat and in the lungs a little bit. It works. It really does.
Yeah.
Check out CBD. CBD works for me every day. I use it for the arthritis. I talk about it every day, and what Joe and Chip are doing over at Utica Hemp is amazing. And Brian's over here, and we're going to talk a lot about CBD because you're wrapped up in the CBD industry yourself.
Yep.
Part of Ninja Farms. Talk a little bit about Ninja Farms.
Ninja Farms is a small farm in Colorado, and it was an organic farm. And we tried to just figure out what the best thing for the medicinal part of CBD is. Because hemp and CBD, it's in its infant, stages. Not too many people really know the full potential. We're seeing great results from the stuff that's happening right now, but different strains, different geographies, different parts of the country. Those are the things that that's the next level thing to look at with New York being on board with being able to grow the stuff here and process it here, and how the states are going to start handling that with the new farm bill that was passed, which for people that have been in the game for a minute, that actually threw a big curveball into everybody because it's limited a lot of the small farms.
Right.
Because we started getting into the numbers are starting to get into the big corporations, which would be pharmaceuticals and places like that, where enough has been done. It's alarming. So they want their hand in the till.
Of course.
And,
Uncle Sam.
And yeah, so as in lots of science and medicine, it's hard sometimes to get a full read on what's best, and it also can really change the direction of the research and development in industry.
Take me through the process of extracting CBD from the plant.
Well, there's a couple different ways that you can extract it. There's CO2, there's you can make an isolate, you can make a distillate, you can have what you call a full spectrum, and people that make isolates and distillates still call their oil full spectrum, which necessarily isn't correct.
What exactly is an isolate and a distillate?
It is, it's just an extraction technique.
Okay.
In layman's terms, because we could spend all day talking about that kind of. So it depends on what you're using to extract. You have to add something to it. Like in coffee beans, you have to add water to get it's not water soluble, so it'll push the oil out of the bean, and then it runs through. And if you heat it up to a certain level, then that's what you're going to get is your coffee. So in
same principle,
similar. Yeah. So our extraction method is actually, it's an alchemy, and the specific part of it's called spagyrics. So it dates back to before any pharmacology was happening. Essentially, the way that pharmacology went down is they lifted the technique from this alchemy, which has been practiced since the beginning of time as far as any kind of medicine or herbs, because it's not just CBD that you use spagyrics for. You can use it for any herb. You can use it for chaga and all mushrooms. It's a process. So essentially that's using organic cane sugar alcohol. So the first run that runs through whatever herb and or CBD flower that you're using, you run it through and you get a mother oil. Then you take, speaking specifically of CBD, we take that flower that the organic cane sugar alcohol ran through, and we take that with the root ball, the full stem, and it goes into a burn tent. So by putting it into the burn tent, it changes the molecular structure to almost like a big flake of sea salt or like a quartz crystal. Reconstituting that back into the mother oil, it's crazy. It goes off for like 2 days like a volcano, like bubbling.
Really?
Like witch's brew. Yeah, it's like making noise, and a real chemical reaction goes on.
Is it under heat?
It's not.
It's not. It's
No.
just doing it because of the chemical reaction.
Chemical reaction.
Okay.
So what that does, if you test before and you test after, testing after, like 7 to 10 different cannabinoids become present in the mother oil before they're not present. So in layman's terms, it unlocks part of the chains of different cannabinoids that are now absorbent into your body.
Yeah.
Whereas if you use an isolate or you use a distillate, you can jack up certain numbers of specifics, but you lose the whole range across the whole board of other potential cannabinoids that are healthy for you. So that being said, after that, we take an MCT oil, which is a medium chain triglyceride. And essentially, once again, in layman's terms, I like to explain it. I like it.
Did you see my face?
Yeah. It's coconut oil.
I gotcha.
And it's an organic coconut oil. Mm-hmm. And essentially, it's like the wheelbarrow. So now that you have this new spagyric that you've combined the minerals from the burn tent into it, you have a way to with the MCT oil to get it to your cells faster and more direct. So instead of just carrying, like if it was an isolate or distillate, it would be a specific, like a laser beam of specifically the CBD.
Okay.
Whereas now you're talking about a whole color chart of cannabinoids by using the MCT oil that is going to effectively carry all of them to the cells that it needs to go to, because you have 2 cannabinoid receptors in your brain. So by doing that, you're opening the book and making it easy for you to absorb. If you drink, 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you're going to pee orange. You're not going to be any healthier.
Or it's going to come out the other end.
Exactly. Probably both.
Yeah, probably both.
So, like that's kind of also the other layman way I like to look at it. Like your body can only handle so much a day. And then once you do that, you're non-absorbent. However, if you have other ways to open up the distribution to your cells, then you can absorb that much more into your cells, into your matter of your body. So that's kind of the difference between the spagyric way or just doing an alcohol run or doing a butane run.
Quite a process.
It is.
Yeah.
It takes, a couple more days easy to get it all like that. But by knowing that, that's really a full spectrum oil.
Can you take CBD from any sort of plant? Like say it hermaphrodited. Can you take CBD from a hermaphrodited plant?
Absolutely. And you can. You don't want to get into, it wouldn't be profitable because you're already wrestling with time and money and all that. Mm. So, and it's a good question because I was just talking to a friend of mine that's, a big distributor out in Colorado, and he's like, Brian, it's crazy. It's already pushed to the level where people like in Oregon are like fighting their families and guns and stuff again, just like we see in all kinds of crazy trades. This is the same friend of mine that 2 years ago, when you'd think, oh, it's just CBD, no worries, like how they thought.
Right.
Being in the marijuana industry, that's like armed guard locked. It's Denver. You got to be careful. They didn't see it coming. And they had 60,000 pounds cured and dried flower that the cartel came at gunpoint and took.
Wow.
Yeah. It was an eye-opener. Legal. It was legal. They were legal. And, that wasn't legal that the cartel came, but
right.
Yeah.
El
Real
Chapo
story.
came in.
Real story. Yeah. And so that kind of changed the game too, where you're trying to talk to farmers about how they can take care of their families and be, safe and a new way in life. And it was like, whoa.
All right. You just sparked some questions on this cartel thing. Do you think the government maybe informed the cartel to do that? Just to kind of get them off their back, and you know what I'm saying? Because it's a private investor. Right?
There's not another person here, so we can't get in trouble for conspiracy, can we?
I don't know. We're off to thousands of people.
If there's only one other person out there, I don't know if I can answer that question.
All right. I got it. But if you think about it.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm really thinking about it, especially like if I'm going to the bathroom kind of thinking about it, yeah, it's all potential. And it gets kind of scary because
it does. If just when you think, you hit a home run, there's always going to be a curveball. And this went into the conversation that we had prior to going on the air. I always put things in baseball terms.
Totally fine.
And
can't wait for preseason.
Yeah, no doubt. And congratulations, Derek Jeter's getting inducted today.
Woohoo!
But they make the announcement. But anyways, back to that. That's just kind of crazy. And what do? You got to lay down to the cartel. You're not going to get into a bloodbath with them.
No, they were bagged. They were bagged and tied. People. They were bagged and tied.
Bagged and tied.
The whole thing.
Did anybody get perished?
Nope. Everybody's alive, but that's the thing. It was a lot of money, and it was a lot of.
And how did they report that?
They were legal. So the way that it goes down in Colorado, and I don't know how everybody else is going to follow suit with it, but you had to apply. Well, this is kind of funny because you had to apply for a permit through the ag department. So you had to put in your permit. It was $500 per, for the first acre. Any acre on top of your first acre of the 500 was a $5 charge. So up to however many acres you wanted to grow.
Okay.
And then it was kind of a lottery on who would be tested. And it's funny when you read the law, it's like it gets you to this point where you have to do that. And then nobody really was claiming who was in charge of once it went past the September, like 21st, I believe was the date that they were going to test to. If you weren't called in that lottery, then you could let your field grow because no one's coming. And they're like, it has nothing to do. They had nothing to do with like the local people with any kind of water, because out in Colorado, water is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
You can have domestic wells for an acre, but you start getting into 10 acres and you don't have the water rights. It's a big deal.
The water drying up in Colorado? Not like it is in like Arizona and Vegas, right?
No, everything is
there's
catastrophic when it doesn't get through to, like we were talking earlier, when it doesn't get out to the ocean. There's definitely some stuff we're messing up as humans. The water sources in Colorado, though, there's underwater aquifers. In particular, where my farm is at, it's one of the largest aquifers in the world. And underneath it, not that far, it's a desert on top, like talcum powder. It's crazy. You can see stuff from space that somebody, if you walk, that's there from 10 years ago. And it blows the winds and stuff there. It's crazy. It's on, Alamosa and the Four Corners all pull up from, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. That's the jet stream that comes right up through the, up that mountain range. The Sangre Crystal Mountain Range, excuse me, on the back side of that is where Colorado Springs, our Air Force base is built into the mountain there, because it's something else is going on for sure. But the reason being is that there's tons of meridians that are underneath the ground, and it's because of the water. So the electricity that's there for any kind of crafts or lifting gravity or flying, it's definitely the spot, because it gets totally different than any place else due to the fact that there's a lot of water underneath the ground.
It's very fertile, huh? Very, very fertile.
On top, it's not.
No, it's not?
On top, it's desert. That's the most ironic part about it. It's like sagebrush and just about sagebrush, if there's any. On the low parts of it. It gets the conifers, and then there are tons of aspen growths up high where there's water. But the valley floor has dried up. It used to be a lake, and it's not a lake anymore on top. So that's already started changing. 200 years ago, it was a huge lake where the farm was. But underneath that is a lake that was, is 100 times bigger than the lake on top ever was.
Thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah, well, the lake underneath is still there. The aquifer that's under there, that's huge.
Okay.
It's a huge aquifer. Now, there are people, I'm not going to say who, tapping into it, because Colorado owes Kansas from like 1850 on water rights. But the person that built L.A. bought all the water rights in Colorado to build L.A. in the late 1800s. Which is very bizarre. There's friends of mine that own, they own 40.
And these deals still stay intact.
Oh, it's nasty.
Yeah.
Oh,
for real.
Really nasty. Like no rain gutters on your house. You own your house, you own your acreage, and the water that falls on the roof, somebody in LA owns the water rights to.
What?
Oh, yeah. Not even kidding.
How does it make any sense?
It's total nonsense, but it's true. And, there's ditches. So the ranchers there control the ditches. So the families that were there earlier, or depends on how high up the ditch you are. So you can have 100 acres and be third on the ditch. If it's a good year, the farmer will be like, I'm leaving the ditch open. And you say, thanks. If it's not a good year, he's like, closing the ditch. And then people are trucking water. So it's crazy. It's like kind of like.
People are collecting rainwater?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that illegal?
Well, I think they changed the rule, actually.
They did.
It used to be definitely illegal.
Okay.
You used to not be able to do it.
And who would make that law?
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. You're not allowed to collect rainwater.
Go Lakers.
Yeah. L.A. No, but seriously, though, what a crazy law that is. You're not allowed to collect rainwater.
No, like really dark genius. It's like you have to give credit to like this guy that I forget what his name was. Who developed it?
No more.
No, it's not. It's still very much alive. There's certain things that have been amended, but all joking aside, the water rights that Colorado has and how you get them, 1 acre domestic, you can have 40 acres, but you won't have one well that's 1 acre domestic. To find something else it's crazy. We just kind of hit a gold mine of water there. My new partner, we have like 4 artesians and like 12 domestic on like, I don't know, on like 400 acres.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's all well and fine until the National Guard come in and seize it. You know what I mean? Like, water's serious.
Yeah, it is. It's a game, huh?
Especially out there, you know? Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's going to get even worse, too, especially when the water keeps drying up.
Yeah, Mad Max is pretty real.
Oh, it really?
That's kind of what it looks like where I'm talking.
Really?
Yeah.
See, we don't see any of that living over here on the East Coast.
No, it's rugged.
Yeah.
It's rugged, high mountain desert. I mean, they fly heavy over there because it's very similar to, Afghanistan and over in the Middle East. And then, the 38th parallel it's only like 2 miles from where my farm is, which is always a trip to me. I always drive past that sign. Sometimes I stop and I'm like, hey, there's North Korea, South Korea, North Korea, South Korea. Like you just take your hand and go like that. I'm like, that's really crazy if you think about it.
You just go that way.
Yeah. But then you look in the sky and see the birds that are flying. Like there's this crane that flies at like 35,000 feet and stays in that jet stream. And it lands on our parallel. And then it circumnavigates and lands on the North Korean, South Korean parallel too. So there's something of a balance that it's hip to.
You need balance. Even birds need balance.
I mean, they're trying to tell us.
It's the universe needing balance.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, so, I want to go back to talking about CBD, though, and benefits for CBD. And can you talk about some success stories that people have had with CBD and, like, ailments and whatnot?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the greatest success stories that are elementary, that are so prevalent, are like my dogs. I have actually Ninja is one of my dogs. He's like 12 or 13. It's typical things happen to a dog where you take him on a long walk, you take him on hikes and stuff, and his hips would be a little bit sore, and you'd see his joint stuff, dogs and joints. And he's been on CBD now for, a couple years.
How old?
Like 12. And his face, you can tell, like, I mean, his energy, his younger brother is a husky, so he's next level. I mean, huskies, I don't know if you're familiar with husky, but he's like an Olympian, like they're like land dolphins. They're different. They're smarter. They see things different, and they're most of them are super high strung. This guy's super mellow.
Definitely a unique breed.
Yeah, for sure. And so, after we started giving, right when we had him as a pup, we started giving Ninja CBD, and I mean, within 2 weeks, he was jumping in the car, rousing with his brother all the time. And I mean, it's still constant. Like you can just see it and feel it. He's energy levels are better. The joint stuff is much better, and a lot of the people that I, sell our product to, every single one of them are like, thank you, my dog now,
How long did they notice the difference? How long do you think it took?
I mean, I like to say as a median that it's, 2 weeks.
Yeah, because it takes a minute to get going.
It totally does.
You need to get like in a cycle, if you will, right?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of less is more in the beginning. Uh-huh. I like to tell people go easy because nobody really knows how it's going to affect anybody.
Right.
I mean, we talk about, you don't get high because it's 0.300%. It's legal. It's a medicine. It's not something that you should treat like, I can just drink this whole bottle. Because,
right.
I mean, I've done that from before it was legal, but like at the processor, my first time around, and I was like a kid at the candy store. I was trying all this stuff, or like if you were at a winery, but you were with the winemaker downstairs, kind of thing.
Right.
And everything was great till about an hour and a half. And I mean,
what happened?
I was like. I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't lift. I went to a Chinese restaurant after, and I mean, we ordered, and then my partner at the time, he's like, "Are you okay?" You turned, and I mean, I couldn't lift my head off the table. Like I ordered, and I was just like, it felt like I was on like, I don't want to, like a Quaalude, I was just like Wolf of Wall Street. You know how it's like,
yeah.
Everything was just like, I was like, whoa, like this is, I mean, I took more than like 10 times more than you'd give an elephant, but it's still nonetheless, there is a ceiling of this is serious. There's something in there that's going to your body. It's bigger than your body cells.
Right.
So anything that you use like that, So after that, I mean, I was just like, okay, I need to know the threshold of how we're going to start talking about, milligrams for people, what's good for people, what could potentially be too much for somebody. For instance, my mom takes 500 milligrams instead of one drop, a dropper full instead of 1,000 because the 1,000 was just too much for her, So I always suggest
too much for like putting her out, sleepy,
groggy
a little bit.
It was just. I mean, my mom.
But that's also a good thing too. If you're having problems sleeping, I would take like 2 full drops. It would knock me out, and I'd get a good 8-9 hours.
Great, and it also helps. It helps your REM. So it is great, and it's funny because one of her best friends, my aunt, she's on the 2000 program, and she's like, "Bring it." She's like,
high tolerance here.
She's like, "Bring it," and my mom's like, but my mom's the kind of person that has a glass of wine with an ice cube in it, and that's like her partying. So back to like specifics on it, I say start easy and feel how you feel. And if you have to go to work, I don't suggest that, oh, cool, why don't you take it in the morning? I more suggest like take it when you're done with work in the evening after what you're doing at home, like so you can actually see how it makes you feel. Do that consistently. And, if you're not getting groggy from it, then, take 2 full dropperfuls of it. Because it breaks down to, I think it's like for dogs and stuff, 5 milligrams a pound. So you get up to like 25 or something, and you have to be careful because that was another thing, I was saying, do this for your dog and people were like, well, my Chihuahua, and I'm like, don't give him that much. You know what I mean? So I had to be careful because if you give a Chihuahua the same that I give my Husky, the Chihuahua potentially could be out,
Yeah.
So you have to be careful. And that's why I'm always just like, start slow, go for the weight, what your weight is, and then increase it. But more importantly, keep doing it because once you get it in you, like if you have to take more, I'm not a big believer that you have to take more forever. It's the kind of thing that once your cannabinoid levels get up to a certain level in your body, then it's a maintenance, and the maintenance is a lot less. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a great salesperson because
you sold me, man.
But
I've already been sold though.
Yeah, less is more though, is what I'm saying. Once you get it in you, it's not like, oh well, now I'm taking 2 droppers and then my tolerance. It's not a
tolerance thing.
No, it's a. That's why my slogan is enhance your wellness because. It's too many things to wrestle around with. Like, does it decrease cancer cells? Well, yeah, there are some great studies that show that it does. And my friends that are really in the business, the most potent thing that we see scientifically and in the medical field in like Israel or in like Japan, where people have been studying this for a long period of time, is a combination. It is a mushroom and a cannabinoid combination that actually for sure reduces cancer cells. Does it reduce all cancer cells? Is it going to save No, that's not the case, but it definitely does reduce cancer cells. It's known data that's
proven fact.
Proven.
Yep.
So, that being said, I got into it with this woman from the Cancer Society, and it was crazy. A really good friend of mine, she was having tea with this woman at her house, and she just found out that I had a CBD company, and she lit into me like nobody's business. And I was just like, lady, I'm not like trying to tell anybody that it's like, don't do this, do this. And she was just like, you have no idea. We spend billions of dollars doing research on what's going to cure cancer. And you guys have no idea. Like she just went off. And I was like, wow. It was a real eye-opening experience for me before I started marketing or before I started I'm like, this lady like hates me for like having a potential.
Well, maybe she's just ignorant and just not knowing, and ignorant meaning lack of information.
Well, right? It's funny that you say that because her lack of information was her podium for ripping me out. Like she's like, we study, we spend all this money. And I didn't even get a chance to get in the part with, well, we can manipulate anything behind the glass. Uh-huh. All research, all statistics, all that stuff can be made up. You can spend $1 million and you actually can manipulate the outcome of whatever science project behind the screen you're doing if you're thinking thoughts to manipulate it and or you're getting paid to not write down everything that you figured out. So those are 2 big, potential problems that I see with all of that. But that was a whole other day. I mean, it would have been a week trying to explain that to her.
Yeah, right.
It's not
Sometimes it's not even worth your energy.
No, it's just like, well, all I'm saying, and that's how I left it. I'm like, this is totally fine. What I do know is that if somebody is uncomfortable and not eating and, eating way too many ibuprofens and they're not working, there's multiple reasons why you might want to consider that this is a potential to make you to feel well.
Hey, it's an alternative.
It is.
Yeah.
And in the midst of all the crap that people are taking, especially in medicine form, if they do have cancer or something that extreme, one thing for sure is that it's not going to affect that. It might only be a positive thing. It's not going to be a negative thing, because taking naps and being able to feel better is a huge key to healing anyway.
Well,
it's the key.
They all want us to be sick, though, Brian. That's what they want us to all be sick.
Yeah, I was born sick. I'm trying to get well.
Exactly. So if you're an avid marijuana smoker, do you have a higher tolerance for CBD? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, sure. It's a different cannabinoid. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people too have the misconception that hemp and CBD and marijuana with THC are different. Exact same strains, exact same plant. They are of the cannabis family. Mm. And so my short answer is no.
No.
Because you're not getting the cannabinoids at the level from smoking THC weed that you are getting from the cannabinoids out of really low THC, high CBD.
Full spectrum.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I mean, even just a CBD plant. So testing can go, depending on the level of the strain, you can get like a 7% CBD or you can get I think last year we pulled 18%, which is very high CBD. Uh-huh. And
what's average?
I would say average probably like 12, 14, just because there's so many acres going on down in like Kentucky and places like that. And I think my friends that had stuff going on down there were talking for companies like Charlotte Web and things like that were pulling like 7%. That was last year. So I don't know. I'm shooting off the hip, but I'd say maybe like 12 would be a good, I wouldn't get too beat up.
And you're pulling 18. That's great.
Well, yeah. And the thing is you can pull that and then you can be hot. And then when it gets processed, you can bring the numbers back down on the THC.
Okay.
So that's another thing that needs to be talked about. It's like my experience is that 0.3, and I think that they know this too. That's dancing right on the line of like, come on, boys, we're not giving it its full thing. Because for one, you can't leave the plant in. If you're giving a set time for a plant, being like, okay, plant.
So let me back up real quick. So 0.3 is the legal limit of THC in your CBD for a full spectrum. Is that what you're referring to right now?
Right. 0.3 THC. It has to be 0.03 or less.
Okay. It's almost like the DWI laws, right?
Right. Across the board internationally.
Gotcha.
For the amount of THC in the product.
Okay.
Right. CBD, there's no level of what that is.
Right.
So,
CBD's legal.
Yeah, exactly. The CBD part of it's the non-psychotropic part of the cannabinoid.
Okay.
So, yeah, I forget what we were talking about before that question.
Oh, we were talking about, first we were talking about the high tolerance from THC.
Yep.
And then after that, we got into, see, this is what happens when two stoners come together. And
Stand. St. Stephen.
THC and CBD. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So your body can, you're not going to, it's not going to affect you any more or less. Is what we were really talking about, I think, is that the cannabinoids that you'd be getting in from the CBD are of much value because they're not in the high THC stuff.
Right.
So now the hybrids that they're starting to come together.
And the 0.3.
Right. Oh, that's what we were talking about.
Yes.
The 0.3. Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Success. So the 0.3 to me, like ours was 0.6 the first year. So out of the field, there were some things, some of our stuff was a little bit hot. So when it was processed, it wasn't. Because you can bring the number of THC down by diluting it, because the mother oil comes out at 27 or 30% CBD, which is super load. And then as you mix that down into 2,000 milligram bottles and all the way down is when you're taking it down enough so it goes down to 0.3 or less. So like my 2,000s are...
You have to dilute it somehow?
With the MCT oil is how that makes your numbers.
Okay.
So my 2,000 has it's 0.28. So I'm 0.02% under the legal.
It's under.
It's as high as you can get. It's the most you can put in there.
What about in states that are legal marijuana, like Colorado or whatever? Does the CBD still have to be 0.03?
Great question. Back to, we were dancing on that earlier, and it's, so the MIP there, the marijuana enforcement, and the CBD, totally like the North and the South, like nothing to do with each other. And there's those loopholes inside that nobody will answer the real questions of that. Nobody wants it on their plate. So you have the ag department that will not talk to once you put your ag permit in, they don't want nothing to do with any of the water laws or any of the stuff in the townships, or they have nothing to do with that. And then they also have nothing to do, once it goes past September, they have nothing to do with what you do with any of your product. Nobody's watching that. And the MIP department has nothing to do with the CBD department because they're dealing with marijuana. So super gray.
Really?
Yeah, very gray. And so my experience though is that...
But they just keep it at 0.03?
Yeah, and there's talk...
Just so they don't, tread waters?
Totally.
Okay.
There's talk about it being 1% or less.
Okay. Wow.
Which
wow.
on the medical...
1% or less.
Right.
Okay, which would increase it, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would more than double what they're allowing now, which... Here's the deal with that.
And why wouldn't they?
Because...
It's a federal thing?
I could get in trouble.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, because they're assholes. That's the deal. Like the medicinal part of it, my experience with it is that a little bit more than 0.3 is really where we're dancing at as the best medicine that you can put for that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So them limiting that, for one, there's no plants that finish, or very few that are going to be high CBD and under the 0.3 limit in crops. So my hypothesis is because of this is it's in a phase of experimentation.
Okay.
That they're trying to keep it separate so that you're not growing. It was 8%. You know what I mean? Because 8% and like 8% CBD and a 12% THC, that's like a hybrid, and that's in the MIP department. That's in the marijuana department, and that's in the big money department. That's why Denver's not bankrupt department. For real. They were going bankrupt. And
what about the Rick Simpson oil, though? Where does that fall in?
Rick Simpson oil falls in as a huge medicine that is, that you're talking about in an ounce bottle, it would be 1 gram, like huge THC.
Right.
Huge.
Oh, it's huge THC.
Mm-hmm. Like one pound of, really extraordinary flower, of THC flower. I think we were getting like maybe 30 grams of Rick Simpson oil. That's it. But the potency per gram is what you need for, I think you could do a full Rick Simpson thing with about 2 pounds, I think, which is like a 3-month process. If you go online and check out Rick Simpson's, what he did, then that's about what it is.
Okay.
And
what's his backstory?
I forget what kind of cancer he had, but he used this oil and it cured his cancer. And it's very specific. It's indica, and it's a very specific process. And yeah, I've seen it do wonders for people, but that's a heavy load. Like when you really get into it, like I have a friend that had super, super high tolerance for THC, and I sent him Rick Simpson oil and I diluted it so that he could get it in him. And he's like, after he started feeling better, he was in stage 4 cancer, and he got out of bed and started walking. He was a musician, and so he started playing gigs again.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. Just amazing. Hair stands up on the back of my neck. People called me and they're like, he's going to die. Is there anything you can do? So we did this. And in a month and a half, he was 118 pounds when he called me. And in a month and a half, he went up to 160 pounds and was playing gigs again and actually going and getting his medicine and could like get around again. So no doubt was amazing. And then he's like, well, I don't know if send me something. Seems like it's not strong enough. So I didn't dilute the next stuff. And he's like, yeah, I love that stuff, but I can't get out of bed just because it rocks me.
It's too potent.
Yeah. He's like, I'm just like knocked out. I'm like, well, that's kind of the part of it. And that's also why I diluted it so that you could get it in and function. But I mean, it's a lot, it's very heavy load. And the reason being is that you're flipping all of your cell structure upside down, so it's going to take a minute to get it all right. Back to the 0.3 and under, my personal belief from experience of myself is that, dancing on a number higher, still, I don't want to like start cheating it and be like, oh, we're 3%. No, I'm not talking about that. But like 1%, the really great CBD strains that are out there, without worrying about 0.3, you can actually let the plant finish growing. At this stage, nobody really can let the buds flower.
It's not fully mature.
No, it's not. So all this shit that's out there right now, everything that's talked about, how great it is, it's still not, it's maybe 75%.
Wow.
80% potential of the plant that you're using to start with. Huh. Because everybody has to pull early. Everybody's flipping out when it comes to when they start flowering. Because if you test...
instead of like 6 weeks on a vegetation, you're pulling at 4?
Yeah, I mean, 6 is really soon. It would be more like 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
And they're pulling it like 6 or 4 or 6, just because some farmers are like, screw it. They're not even going to mess with it. Right. And if you have 10 acres out there and if it gets hot or you get tested, they'll take everything. So, there's a fine line. And there's some really great people that are getting involved. Like for me, I have an organic farm that they've been organic farmers for, a decade, like growing amazing vegetables and all of that. And they took almost 2 acres this year to grow medical CBD, not because they want to be in the drug game. I hesitantly say that, but there's a lot of people that there's the stigmata of that you're doing this. It's a tough fusion for lots of people in the country. So, they were very strict to what's going on. He did get called and tested, and he passed. And, the flower that came out of there is phenomenal, and it's all legit and legal. However, if he could have let it go for another 2 weeks, it'd only been better. And so that's the thing that's frustrating with, just like in anything with laws, it's like, I had this conversation with my mother too on the FDA. The FDA is really being hard now since the farmer bill passed, which anybody that was in the business knew that was coming, because I could be like, the FDA sucks, because they do. The good intention, okay, I'll give you some good intention, but at the end of the day, the roadblocks that are put into like actually getting somewhere, it's so tiresome that it really starts chipping away at the great potential that you have for something. So there's that all going on right now.
There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. But that's the main thing. If you're not letting the plant finish, people don't get that. This isn't, and now New York's like, oh, we'll just synthesize everything. It's like, no, New York, when are you going to learn that synthesizing everything has not done us any justice? I mean, some things, yes, synthesize them. Awesome. But all things, I think that's the biggest snare, so to speak.
It's a big snare.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yep. This has been some great info for today. I needed to get some of this information in my brain. Like, seriously.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I was wondering about the hermaphrodite plants. I was curious about that.
We didn't talk about that earlier, though. You brought it up about in Oregon. No, the problem that's going on in Oregon, which is a huge problem that's I hope doesn't happen in New York.
What's that?
Well, is that people say, oh, I have these seeds, or you find seeds in a bag. Oh, I'll just plant them. That's all great until they start pollinating. It's amazing how you can ruin thousands of acres from just a few seeds. I mean, it's crazy. I've seen it in the valley that I'm in Colorado, and it got really bad because they let hemp. So the hemp farmers started fighting with the weed farmers because the hemp farmers are just Johnny Appleseeding it out there. And as we know, Johnny Appleseed didn't do such a great job seeding specific apples. It was the Chinese that gave us the techniques to graft an apple that gives us the sweet apple that you eat. If you take a sweet apple and cut it in half and take a seed out of that apple, it's like a 98% or 99% chance it's not going to be a sweet apple. You have to graft apple trees to get the apple right.
So know what you're planting.
Exactly. And don't just
Know
start
your seeds.
Yeah, well, we should talk to everybody about that. I mean, really. But the thing is that, yeah, the airborne part of planting a seed that's non-feminized is a crucial step that needs to be looked into. And a lot of people aren't doing it. You know, they're planting 40 acres and like, oh, we'll just send a crew out there. And once they start flowering, we'll pull the males. That's kind of just like not wearing a condom and not being on birth control. I mean, it's kind of
taking a chance.
Yeah, it's a big Russian roulette thing going on. And so, yeah, that's definitely been a problem in Oregon. You know, my buddy was telling me, like, families, like, you know, Hatfield McCoy shit going on because, you know, if you got 30 acres out there and it's hemp and you have 30 acres of weed and you have another 30 acres of hemp that are all feminized and your neighbor just planted 30 acres non-feminized, all that pollen blows into your stuff. You don't have Sensi anymore. You have all seeded. And it's really hard because you spend all the time, the 4 or 5 months of growing, amending your soils, getting everything ready, planting. And it's only a window of like 2 weeks that seed everything.
Wow.
And just, you know, then you can't.
You can ruin acres and acres of
Oh, yeah. Because you can get CBD out of it, but you're not going to pick the seeds out.
Yeah.
And running that stuff through, it's not the same. And in a smokable flower, it ruins it totally. Mm-hmm. So
there's a lot of worries being a farmer in the industry, huh?
I mean, farming is a tough business.
I feel like there's a lot of stress involved.
It's not non-stressed. It's very stressful for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not for nothing, but like at the end of the day, nothing's guaranteed.
Right.
At all.
Right.
You know, even when it's all trimmed and bagged and paid out of pocket and everybody's taken care of, until the suitcase of money is there, it's not done.
Right.
And, you know, it really is far and few between that that's actually the case too. You know, it's a lot of my friends it's tough.
But there's a lot of jobs in the industry too, though.
Totally. There's some great jobs in the industry and that's all well and fine. The biggest problem is I have friends that have big scenes going on and that's great. But the troublesome thing to me is the little guy being cut out of everything. And, you know, that's really where you get your good stuff.
Who being the little guy? Like the little farmer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The acres, the 2 acres, the 5 acres, growing super dank with love. You know what I mean? Like there really is that.
Take care of their plants, take care of their crop. Yeah.
Absolutely. The misconception that, you know, your weed color is like neon green because it's coming from an indoor place that doesn't have any wind and people are jacking it with a bunch of chemicals and salts. And people are like, oh, this is the best weed I've ever seen. And that's great, except for
you don't know what you're smoking.
Yeah, you're missing the whole point of the difference. You might get weed that looks airier, that, you know, but what that does to you when you smoke it, it gives your body the ability to process it the way that it was intended to be grown. And so there's all of those things that I could spend all day banging my head against the wall because sometimes, I mean, I've spent many days doing that. Just like, you guys don't get it. Like, yeah, we can put a bunch of salt out there and make this increase the crop by like, you know, tenfold. But the tenfold crop that we just increased is all shit. I mean, once you know the difference between a fully organic, full spectrum process of how you go through it and what you're gaining from that, and also the ability that cannabis has to put into the soil, especially in places like New York, where the majority of the farmland has basically gone to corn, and hopefully not too many pesticides, and or you know you start talking about golf courses and all these places that's killing the microbes. The salt on the road here. We used to never salt. Sand is fine. You know, like it really is. And people need to slow down and really think about it because the people that are speeding around complaining about the salt, they want to go out on the boat and catch bass. Well, if you keep salting, the bass aren't going to be there. It's just the way it goes. You know, it's the same thing.
Yeah, cross-contaminating.
Totally. So that on the ground level is the same thing that we have to deal with on the pollination level, as well as, you know, getting a grip with that seed has the ability in 1 year. You can clean fully toxic soil within 3 years, completely certified organic, no problem. So the other side of that is you can grow hemp or cannabis, and we need to go to places and use it to suck up the soil that's shitty It needs to get into the textiles. It needs to get into the, the different fuels and stuff that we could, biofuels and things that we can use in a mass sense that we can annually harvest. And it's the only seed known to man that's going to leave more nutrition in the ground after having a crop than any other seed on the earth. I mean, and that's true. And so for me, the shame is everybody rushing to, well, this is how much your CBD is worth. It's the plant is worth so much more for the knowledge that can actually help the next generations, like, be back in sync with some type of harmony back with the earth, instead of just
totally lack of harmony with the earth these days.
Absolutely. I mean, I see most of the problems definitely will stem from that, and that's the place that heals that stuff. So if you have a plant that understands that, and you can interject that into a place that doesn't understand that, that plant's going to teach you how to become more harmonious with the things that you're not harmonious with, if you let it. So I see that as it's a huge teacher. There's this great book called The Botany of Desire, and it's a great read. It talks about 4 specific things. It talks about the tulip, and in 1600s, Belgium was run, the whole economy ran on a tulip bulb and the tulips in Belgium. So similar to the gold standard. And I mean, people like committed suicide when the tulip crashed. And back in the day, 16 something, that one tulip that was most sought after was worth like $32 million for one bulb.
What?
Yeah, fact. So it wasn't that long ago that everybody had a better headset on.
Big tulip boom. It was the tulip bubble, right? Is that what happened? Then it popped?
Yeah, it did pop for sure. And so there's that, and there's it talks about the potato famine. Okay. It talks about the apple, and it talks about cannabis. And Michael Pollan, he's an amazing writer. It's a very quick read, but it explains like what's more intelligent is basically what he's trying to fuse together. Is the plant more intelligent? What's going to keep it from becoming extinct? And it goes through all these things. And it's really fabulous because it starts making you think like, well, that plant probably is more intelligent, or it has intelligence that is worthy of me listening to integrate into how I live or the decisions that I make. And it's an easy fit for me to see that kind of stuff. Instead of everybody being like, I'm human and everything else is below me. No, man, like that's a huge problem. Like we are human and we do run the show in a sense, but we're the only animal, as I say animal, because we are part animal.
Oh, absolutely.
And
we are animal.
We have a part for sure. So it's like, if a lion goes down out of the canopy and sees all these zebra, a lion will take the zebra that's like weak, and the rest of the zebra won't run. They're like, hey, lion, yep, thanks. Because you're keeping our species healthy. Mm-hmm. You're feeding your species. If a dude goes down there and if you're walking down there and there's zebra, he'll take an M16 and kill all the zebra and not eat none of them. Like that's the problem, I see. And, I don't know. Hopefully plants and the integration of it and understanding all that stuff.
Are you saying man is so obsessed with guns?
That's another podcast.
Yeah, you'll have to come in for another time for that one, for sure. I don't think that's a rabbit hole I want to go down today.
That's like a black hole.
Especially in upstate New York.
Yeah.
You talking about my guns? Talking about my guns?
Not at all. Just your biceps.
My guns away from me?
Talking about your biceps.
People are so freaking defensive about their guns.
I mean, okay, quick topic on that. Like, hello, do you know what the Second Amendment really was about? It wasn't about, like, going hunting. It was when the government got like it is now, we were supposed to have weapons to protect ourselves from the crazy shit that could come at us.
Right, which is happening.
It's way happening. But then there's some funny shit with that, too. Like, there's some comedians that go off on that I really like to see. It's like, yeah, they have these drones these days. Yeah, right. They're like, they already know where your guns are.
Duh.
I mean, I get it, and
we're under surveillance at all times now. We are.
We've been violated.
You really can't get away with too much nowadays. So yes, you're right. They do know where your guns are.
We've been violated on all that shit, and that's not cool. Because I mean,
we have been. Ever since 9/11, it just freaking went downhill from there.
Yeah, and we could chit chat about that, and then you're like, "Oh, you're anti-patriotic," and I'm like, "No, man. Like, read the Declaration of Independence. It has nothing to do with that stuff. It's the misconception and all of those things. And, I try not to have guns around. You know why? Because, like...
They kill?
Yeah. They're designed
I'm with you.
to do that.
But yeah, whatever. Let's not go down that road. We're going to say that for another podcast.
Some other day.
Brian, I'm definitely having you come back sometime really soon. And we didn't even talk about music. You got a whole extensive music career that you've done you've traveled the world and the country and all the things that you've done. But we went down the THC.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, we went down the cannabis pipe, that's for sure, for lack of a better term. Well, we do got a full day at the D, and I do got to cut it short. So we do got to, like, before you get out of here, let's schedule another one and get you back in a couple weeks, and we can talk about a whole bunch of other great stuff. And thank you to CBD over there at Utica Hemp. See, we're talking about CBD. I can't even say this stuff anymore. I want to try. I want to be a taste tester with you one of those days when that's coming up.
You need to take a week off.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably. This one time I got to tell a quick story. This one time I was hanging out with a couple friends, and they had chocolates, and they're like
dangerous,
really dangerous. Here, take a couple chocolates. So I ate one. I'm like, you know what? It's really good. So I ate two. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see out of my right eye for like the whole night. I just totally went blind, and when I was freaking out, sweating, and like freaking, my friends are like, "You all right?" Ended up throwing up all over in the roads in Albany. That's all I did. I wasn't drinking or anything. It was just the two freaking chocolates because I ate too much.
Yeah, for sure. The quick one here. The number one admittance to the ER in like Vail and all in like the Front Range area where everybody flies in and goes skiing and leaves is overdosing on edibles for sure. My friends that are like, that are EMTs and stuff, it's silly. But it's not that silly because...
Yeah, just know your limits.
Well, I mean, nobody knows their limits.
Yeah. Well, that goes back with the CBD, too. I mean, like you said, less is more.
Totally.
Right? Less is more, and you got to maintain. So, I mean, if you're doing edibles, don't eat 2 cookies. Maybe just eat a bite or try it out, especially if it's your first time. You got to dip your toes in the water before you go swimming, right?
Yeah, a few milligrams. Start with a few milligrams. You don't have to go to like 100, 300.
Right.
Like, people are stupid.
Even if you think, I got a high tolerance because I smoke every day, it might be a little different because it's a different part of the plant. And that's something you cleared up for me today, too. So thank you for that. But, you got to the bottom of a few facts that I needed to know today. So thank you. Absolutely. Where can they find you online? Do you have like a website, Facebook, any of that?
Yeah, you can go on ninjacbdproducts.com. That's ninjacbdproducts.com. And my email, too, we're going to post up on here as well, right? On the end of the show.
Yeah, we could throw up the email. I'll throw it up on the description of the podcast and all that too as well. So we'll put that up there. But Brian, thank you so much for coming in. And it was good that I caught up with you at Utica Hemp. We had that conversation we sat there, talked for like 2 hours. I'm like, why don't we just take this to the podcast? And here we are. So we're going to do that again. And thank you so much. And thanks to Utica Hemp and Joe and Chip and everybody that they're doing some good stuff over there in Herkimer, Clinton, and Utica, and in New Hartford. So check them out at uticahempco.com. And also, I got to make mention, too, we're having our 3-year anniversary party coming up on February 8th. Get your tickets. Get them. They're selling. They're doing really good. So get your tickets at disruptionnetwork.net. We're celebrating 3 years of the D at the Jewish Community Center. It's 2310 Oneida Street in Utica. And Haley and the Water are going to join us. They're going to do a special tribute to Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album. Also, Haley... Jane is going to play an acoustic set, and then Annie and the Water is going to play a set. Trampoline Jetstream is going to play a set, and also Live Noah. So come on out and find out who's going to be the biggest D of 2019 as we present our annual D Awards. There's going to be beer, wine, food from Doughboy. Holy Pozzoli is going to be in the house. Our good friends from Saranac. We've got a magician in the house. There's going to be incredible live music. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a spectacle. That's for damn sure. Hit up our website for tickets, disruptionnetwork.net. Save a couple bucks. Or get them at the door. There's going to be plenty of tickets available at the door. It's going to be a great time. Also, much love to Saranac, Utica Coffee, and my friends over at EJA Moving Services. Tomorrow, I don't know what's going on tomorrow. I got a busy week. There's a lot going on. But also coming up at 7 o'clock, we got 3 and Out. They're going to predict their Super Bowl predictions. You got any predictions for the Super Bowl, Brian?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm not really sure. I'm not going to say.
Not going to say?
Not going to say.
I got to be honest with you. I haven't watched any football in years, like 3 years, and I got into the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And the last week's games were pretty good.
Yeah. The only thing, I think both teams are explosive, the offenses and the defenses, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be a high scoring.
That's how the NFL wanted it.
Totally.
If I recall, like last year's Super Bowl was really lame.
Yeah.
It was low scoring, and so this year it's going to be high, powerful.
Yeah, I mean,
offense.
the 49ers just steamrolled, though, their last game, so I don't. They're looking pretty hot.
They look good, but hey, Kansas City looks good too.
They do, and they can smoke it with 2 minutes. They can score, 40 points. So
I don't think anybody's more deserving of a Super Bowl trophy than Andy Reid, though.
I do. I have to. Yeah,
he's had a couple opportunities and fell short a few times, a bunch of times. If you think about all the AFC championship games he's lost.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really realize. He is in the same sentence whether you like Belichick or not. He's in that Madden, Belichick.
Yeah. He's going to the Hall of Fame for sure.
He's one of the greatest, though, and I can't believe the Eagles ever let go of him. It's like you don't let go of somebody like that. I don't care what you're doing. Now look at you, Eagles.
I saw a post from I think it's the Philadelphia newspaper. It says, "We're with you, Andy."
I'm sure they are.
They're rooting for him. So, yeah. But Kansas they're a great team. But San Francisco's a great team as well too. So that kid was running all over the field the other night. That Mosley kid.
He's something else.
Yeah. So yeah, it was some good. It'll be a good Super Bowl. That's for damn sure. So looking forward to that. And then Uncle Louie Variety Show, the Straight Out of the Basement podcast returns tonight at 8:30. We're going live from Holy Pozzoli tonight. We're gonna eat really, really good. I know Taste the Louse is gonna be in the house. They're gonna bring down. They make a cannoli egg roll.
I'm in.
Have you ever had it?
No.
Do you know Taste the Louse? They're over there on Bank Place.
Yeah.
Go try their cannoli egg roll.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. It's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level of munchies, bro.
He just gained 20 pounds in a week.
Seriously. We're going to do some cannoli reviews. Holy Pozzoli is going to be in the house. And also, Joey's just opened up down there. They reopened 307 Mohawk Street. So we're going to be down there hanging out with the Uncle Louie crew. It's going to be a good time. That goes live on the D around 8:30 on all Disruption Network social media platforms. So tune in. Have a good time. It's going to be a great time. We always have a great time when those boys come to town, so looking forward to it. Brian, thanks again, man. This has been a lot of fun, and we got to get you to come back on really, really soon.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Later.
Join us Saturday, February 8th through the Disruption Network 3-year anniversary party at the Jewish Community Center, 2310 Oneida Street in Utica, New York. Musical acts include Annie in the Water, acoustic performance by Haley Jane, Trampoline Jetstream, and Live Noah. Haley in the Water will cap off the night covering Fleetwood Mac's hit album, Rumors. Party kicks off at 6 p.m. There will be beer, wine, food from Doughboys Barbecue, and Holy Pozzoli. Saturday, February 8th. For tickets, visit our website, disruptionnetwork.net.
So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broking everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up disruptionnetwork.net and check out our events calendar brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at disruptionnetwork.net.